Okay, welcome back guys. We're going to create a hello world program now, which will just be a simple program written in C that outputs the message hello world. Very simple. So let's open up Visual Code that you installed. Make sure you don't accidentally press Visual Studio if that's what you have. Visual Studio Code is the one we should be opening. Anyway, you'll see that it's all nice and open now. And we're going to create a new folder on our desktop. So open up your browser here, your file browser. And we're just going to call it Hello World app. Make sure there's no spaces. Right, cool. So in here, back in Visual Code, go Open Folder, File, Open Folder. Select your desktop Hello World app. And it should load it. Excellent. So you'll see this new file button by here. Hello World app, new file. Just click it and we're going to call it main.c. Okay, and then it's going to ask you down here, we recommend you install this extension. Press install because that'll actually help us when writing our C code. And if it didn't give you that, by the way, just click the little plugins thing down here, the extensions, and just search for C or C++. I just install something to help you a little bit more. So that is now done that. So what I want you to do is I want you to include a header file. And header files in C are basically files that contain loads of definitions and function prototypes, but more on that later. Just copy what I'm doing. So we're going to go hashtag include, and then we're going to go stdio.h. So it should look like that. Include, left arrow, stdio.h, right arrow. So that'll give us access to some printing functions, some functions that allow us to print messages out to the users, not actually print on your home printer. Output message to the user. Basically, it contains a lot of functions that allow us to handle user output and input and so on. So what I want you to do now is go integer main bracket integer argc char argv. And make sure you copy me exactly, guys. So yeah, you can see there's a comma there as well. Don't forget anything. So I'm briefly going to go over this now, but you will know more about it later on as we go through the tutorial. So as I explained, stdio.h is a file that contains prototypes to functions that we can use to output messages to the user. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but you don't have to worry, we'll explain that much more later on. So this is a function called main, and the main function is basically executed whenever you start your program. So anything in between, anything by here will be run when you run your program, basically. Now, this function contains two arguments, argc and argv. Now, using these two together can allow us to access data that the user can pass to us when loading our program. So that briefly explains that, but you don't need to worry too much about that yet because this is the very first tutorial. So what I want you to do in between these brackets is I just want you to do return 0. Now what this is going to do is this function will get run, and then we just return 0 back to the operating system because the operating system calls this function for us, right? If you return anything other than 0, it is classed as an error. Only if you're returning it from the main function though, right? What will happen is on the command prompt or terminal, if you're in Linux, it'll tell you code returned, and it'll be what you returned here. So this allows you to return states to the back to the calling program, the program that's running you. So returning 0 generally means everything went okay. Returning something negative is usually an error, but even returning something positive can be an error, but usually it's a negative value if there's a problem. Anyway, back to the story. So once you've done return 0, that means that we're basically saying, yeah, everything ran fine. It's just something we're returning to the caller. But we need to output our hello world. So go into here and type printf hello world exclamation mark and put a semicolon at the end here. So you should see this is your program now. And it's very simple. It outputs hello world and then returns. Now if you didn't have this, the program would still compile, but it would return whatever was on the stack at that time, which you can basically assume that it's undefined behavior. So you should always return something when the type is not a void type, but we'll explain more about what void is and integer later on. That's just something to remember in case you know a little bit about that already. Now go back to your file explorer and go to your directory. Go to the directory that you created your app on. Mine's on the desktop. And all I want you to do, I want you to copy the URL up here. And we're going to go here and we're going to type command prompt. I want you to do cd. And I just want you to right click and it should paste it in automatically. And just press enter. And what that'll do, that'll change the working directory to our Hello World app. And now we're going to go gcc /main.c space -o /main and just press enter. And now you can see, if you go back to the directory, it's created a file called main.exe. So we've basically now just compiled our program. So gcc is the compiler. We pass in our input file, which is main.c, and then we use -o to say that we're about to output the compiled file. This is where we want it to output to, and we use ./main. And ./main is our output file. So it takes main.c, which is our program we just wrote here. It compiles it into machine code and symbols and dynamic, basically object files, and then it creates an executable called main. And on Linux you will actually see main, but on Windows it appends the .exe at the end, the compiler does. So if we now do ./main.exe, by the way, ./ means this directory, in case you didn't know. So when we do ./ it means in this case it means inside the Hello World app directory. Anyway, so do ./main.exe and press enter, and you can see it complains. So let's get rid of that. Let's just do main.exe, and it will say Hello World. So congratulations, you've just written your very first C program. I'm sure you're pretty confused right now, especially with some of the terms I've been talking about, but you really not need to worry, because this is our very first lecture and was designed to just give you a taste of the pudding, essentially. So all of this will be explained in further in depth. We'll explain what these types are. We'll explain how to create functions. We'll explain what these 2 asterisks mean. Things like that, which are probably confusing you right now. So there's really nothing to worry about. Keep following the course and all will be revealed. So yeah, congratulations on creating your very first C program. Good job.